Hi, it's finance and life lesson time. I was going to put this on the second channel as a quick dirty video, but I think a lot more people would like it on the main channel, and I've given it a main number as well because it's quite important stuff, because it has to do with my lab moves and everything, and the finances behind my lab moves, and how, well, I made a bad choice about 6 years ago that I'm going to show you exactly how and why I pretty much diddled myself out of $400,000. And this is kind of a response to Lewis Rossman's video. Hi, Lewis, who does, excellent, as well as Rossman real estate and MacBook repairs, financial life lesson kind of things. And I'll link this video in, and it's how he made a big mistake. Or he thinks he made a big mistake moving to his new office. That was all part of the Rossman real estate thing, and how it ultimately cost him a lot of time and grief, and also about $200,000. But I can one-up him here, and he's kind of like, beating himself up that he didn't follow his own advice and stuff like that. But anyway, he did move just before COVID hit, and absolutely nobody predicted COVID. So, he lost all his passing trade and stuff like that. And anyway, go watch the video. I'll link it in. It's great stuff, as always, from Lewis. So this is kind of a follow-up. He lost $200,000 doing a lab move, basically. Well, I think I can double that. I think I can show how I lost about $400,000. Potentially. And this is not me, regretting the decision. That's like, I made the decision at the time. I'll stick around at the end of the video. I'll tell you actually why I made the decision that I did. But it's more about just me showing realistic numbers of a choice I made 6 years ago, and how those numbers through the last 6 years and over the next, 3 or 4 years will turn out that, yeah, it's cost me $400,000. Not bitter about it. I had my reasons for my choice at the time, and I'm happy with my current financial position and lot in life and my lab here and everything else. But anyway, let's go through it, shall we? I've got a spreadsheet here. Hopefully I've got everything right on the spreadsheet. It starts out up here. Basically, I had a choice back in 2015. It was actually mid-2015, but we'll assume it's the start of 2015. And this choice was to buy an office right behind that wall there, right next to mine, my current 50 square meter lab. And it came up for sale in 2015 for $330,000. And that's the figure that we've got here. So the choice was whether or not to buy that unit or not buy it, basically. And we'll see how not buying it actually resulted in me having to rent 2 other places and potentially piss away rent money and stuff like that. And of course get flooded and all the rest of the fun that went along with moving. So, but spoiler alert, I made this life decision not to buy. So all this stuff on the left-hand side is the not buy calculations, and all this stuff on the right-hand side here is if I had bought this unit, 75 square meter unit next door. Now I've got 50 square meters here. If I bought 75 square meters next door, I could have even knocked out the walls. There's no strata rules against that. I could have had a gigantic 125 square meter lab. So what I've got is basically the dates down here, 2015, each year, 2016, and I go through bulk calculations for each year down here. So I calculate on the left-hand side here the implications of me not buying an office, and on the right-hand side, me buying this office every year. And I've actually extended it right out to 2024. Now, of course, I own my own office here. I bought it a long time ago. It was a really good choice, so I did follow my own advice back then. And I've done a video on being your own bank, and I'll have to link that one in as well. It's a bike ride rambling video, but it's quite pertinent. And basically, being your own bank is I put money into my home loan into what's called an offset account, and then all the money, as I was paying off my home loan, it reduced the interest rate, and to build up cash in my house, my asset, that then I can withdraw. And I did, to actually buy this office. I bought this office outright in 2011 with the cash that I had built up in my house. So I own this from day one, and I still own it today. And then we quickly paid it off. So I own this office. 50 square meters. It's all mine. They can't boot me out. So for each choice, I've got the expenses it's costing me every year in terms of outgoings, which is basically the strata fees, like for the building, the office building that I'm in. And that includes things like, cleaning, lift maintenance, and just upkeep on the building and, everything else. And then also, because I was actually renting for 4 years, I rented 2 different offices, as long-time viewers will no doubt know, and one of them got flooded, of course. So that's for my not buying decision. But for my buying decision, I've also got large expenses. You can already see that they're much larger because you've got 4% interest on the $330,000 to buy the unit. You've got more outgoings because I've got bigger space, and then I've got extra repayments and, stuff like that. So this is not going to be a definitive, like, buying is better than renting kind of thing. Although, right up front, that is my general advice in life. If you can, buy. But of course, everyone's circumstances are different, and really there's no way to make the call unless you're looking at your own individual circumstances, your business, your type of business, your cash flow, your personal circumstances, and all sorts of stuff like that, and your starting base and everything else. But right, so next to that is just the explanation for the expenses on either side, and then the next column is the cash or the assets that I'm accumulating each year over time. In terms of renting, I didn't buy the unit, so it's not appreciating in value, but I'm saving a lot of money in the interest and everything else. So I'm accumulating cash, basically. And on the right-hand side here, of course, because you're buying an actual asset, you're buying a property, then it's worth the value that you bought it, and then it can either go up or go down depending on the market factors, and we'll take a look at that as well. And then at each year, I've got the cash profit in terms of the not buying and basically just renting places. I've got a cash profit every year. Beauty. And that's really great for businesses that need a lot of cash flow. And I actually need a lot of cash flow. I've talked on the Amp Hour about how about one time my business actually just suddenly, boom, ran out of cash almost within a week. It was almost overnight, practically. Ran out of cash because, well, I didn't do the bookkeeping properly, and I forgot about things that I had, big multimeter orders that I had made and committed to and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, I found myself without any cash. Right? Cash flow can kill businesses real quick. But when you buy a unit, you don't have, you still have cash flow issues, but you actually have debt. So over here, if I bought the unit, I would have been in debt for the $330,000. But I would have had a much bigger lab for every year, 2015 right through to now and into the future. I would have had 125 square meters, which is way bigger than any place I ever had over here. So I go into more detail in 2015 here. This is the first year just to explain what's going on here. Now, for the no buy situation, I own this office. My only expenses is $5,000 outgoings here. That's it. Very low expense business by not actually buying a property, obviously. But if I had bought the unit for $330,000, I'm going to assume a 4% interest rate, and that interest rate doesn't change over time. Realistically, it might have dropped a bit, but it doesn't matter. But as I mentioned before, I was going to be my own bank for buying this place. I would have actually bought this place next door outright for $330,000 because I had that cash build up in my house. So I could have simply withdrawn that and got really cheap home loan interest rates as opposed to getting like commercial property like or a business loan rates or something like that, which are much higher. They can be more than double. It's and you've got to put a lot more money down. It's like horrible. So I highly recommend, if you can, become your own bank. Work your way into a position in life where you're your own bank and you can withdraw money. Anyway, I would have done that. So it's 4% interest rate. That works out in 2015 to $13,200. So just pissed away in interest, right? So right there, that's almost like 3 times, like at least 2.5 times my expenses over here. So you can see that buying a place for a cash flow strapped business, you could be in trouble. In fact, it may not be an option for you, but it was an option for me at the time, and I didn't take it. But we'll see about that shortly. Anyway, my outgoings are now more than double what they were over here. They're $12,000 because the outgoings are based on the size of the unit. So instead of having 50 square meters here, I would have had 125 square meters total. So 5,000 here, and next door would have been about $7,000. Much more. So right off the bat, I've got $25,000 in expenses every year just because I bought this property. It might go, oh, geez, I've made a big mistake buying this property. Look at all these expenses. And sure enough, if you had a cash flow problem, you could come a gutser on that. So you've got to be careful. You know, you can't just say buying's better. It depends on your circumstances. But anyway, yeah, $25,000. Now, because I am smart, I am not just going to pay off the minimum interest in a property. I am going to use my property as an asset to become my own bank. So I want to put money back into that asset and build it up, as well as we'll see in a minute, reducing the compounded interest, which is a huge factor, as we're going to show fairly dramatically here, okay? So I'm going to put an extra $20,000 cash every year into that loan so I can actually reduce it. That's why I started out with $330,000, but by the end of 2015, my debt is no longer $330,000. I've paid off an extra $20,000 into that, and it's now only $310,000 debt. Got it? Now, I'm going to assume that over here, I am actually going to commit the same amount of money to cash in my not buy solution over here, okay? So I've actually saved, there it is, I've saved $13,000. I've saved $20,000 in that extra payment, right? So there, basically $33,000, right? But I've got expenses of $5,000, and profit is income minus expenses. Income in this case is just the cash saved by not buying the property, okay? So I made a cash profit that year of $28,200 as opposed to having to pay out, wasting $25,000, right? So, you know, you might think that renting's better, but wait until we get to the bottom of this, okay? So that's how it basically works. And in the first year, I only had 50 square meters. That sucked because I had myself here. At the time, I had David as the intern. I think we were all doing all the packing and shipping, and later I got a packing and shipping person, Suze, to help out part-time. But yeah, we were really cramped in this 50 square meters. So right off the bat, there's a disadvantage by not buying. I simply had less space. So the next year comes along and I decide, no, I can't handle this anymore. I don't have a window. I don't have a door I can open and get fresh air coming in, and we need more space. So screw it, I'm going to rent a 33 square meter office. So I had the 50 square meters here and the 33 square meter office in the business park. So I've now got an additional $22,000 that cost me in rent. I was pissing that away every year, but I had a bigger space and a nice window and a view of the mountains. It was pretty schmick. I don't sort of regret that, but you know, it was pretty nice. Speaking of which, if I actually bought next door, it doesn't have a window either because it's in the building, like it's in the middle of the building like this. Technically, out the front door, you can kind of like see the sky and stuff, but it doesn't really have a window, and certainly doesn't have an opening window to get any fresh air or anything like that. So it's one of the reasons that I didn't buy next door, is that it didn't have a window. So anyway, I've now got $27,000 in expenses, so therefore my cash profit over here is only $6,200 for that year. So I dropped dramatically when I got that rent. Oh boy. Now over here, because I would have purchased in this path in life, it's like that Sliding Doors movie, you know, you choose a different path in life. And anyway, if I'd chosen this path, I would now no longer be paying $13,200 in interest. I'd only be paying $12,400 because I paid in that extra $20,000 into here like this. Remember, I'm reducing my debt, paying the cash in there, assuming you got the cash to do it, which I did. So yeah, I would have probably put $20,000 in. Realistically, I would have put all of my money into there, all my excess cash in my business, I would have put into there because it's just an offset account. A bank account, I can simply withdraw at any time. There's no red tape. It just acts like a bank account, but it reduces your principal. It's called an offset loan account here in Australia. Might be called differently overseas. But anyway, so it's gone. My interest rate's already dropped because I put that extra payment in. And you'll notice that every year, look at this, it drops, it drops, it drops, it drops, it drops, right down to 2024. Well, in 2021, right now, if I'd bought it, I'd only be paying $7,900 in interest, and my debt has reduced from 330,000. Look, because I'm paying 20 grand off each year, right? Look, it drops fairly quickly by now. Right now, I would have only owed 172,000, and that interest drops. So you can see how now interest savings over here is less, right? So it's less, but I have more cash available. So although the interest is lower, that means I have more cash available here to put in. Instead of 20,000 is now $20,800. This is the power of compounding interest. Not only does it reduce my interest rate, right, that I'm paying by putting extra money in and then having the cash available, it compounds itself every single year. And this is how I got from $330,000 down to, in 2021, $172,000 debt left. Is it half? Yeah, it's almost, 45% or something like that. Getting down towards half. You halved your debt in only, 6 years by paying off a measly 20 grand a year, because it compounds, right? That's one of my number one tips. If you buy a house or a commercial office building like this, pay money into it, pay into it like crazy, and try and get an offset account where the interest is taken off your principals, and then you can withdraw that money anytime. It's a form of forced saving, and then you have your cash flow available for your business. It's absolute killer, right? Don't put all the cash into your business. Put some aside into the asset, let it build up and compound the interest rate and your payments. It works miracles. Anyway, so I had to rent that place for 2 years. It was a 2-year term, so I committed and wasted basically $44,000. But I did get extra space, and it was nice, with the window on the balcony and everything else. But after that, then David became a full-time employee, and we were just getting bigger, more stock and shipping. I've got a part-time packing and shipping person, so I needed more space. So we decided, rather than renting a third space or another bigger space, I was getting sick of filming my videos here and editing in another off part of the business park and having to walk back and forth. It was a pain in the ass. So I decided, no, I'm going to consolidate my 100 into a big 100 square meter unit. So that's what I did for 2 years, and that cost me $40,000 a year. It was actually only $31,000, but $9,000 of that was outgoings because the tenant pays the outgoings. But anyway, yeah, so I committed to another 2 years. But what I did, because I own this place, I became a landlord and rented this place out. So I rented that out for roughly $20,000 a year. Okay, so the assets I've now got a rental income coming in because I own this place. I've saved my $10,000 in interest over here. I've also saved my $22,000 over here. So now that's all effectively like income for the business, so to speak. But I've got the rent, which is $40,000, and I'm no longer paying the outgoings here because the tenant pays the outgoings. So the person who rented this place, he was a lawyer, paid my $5,000 a year outgoings for me, which is great. That's just how commercial property works here in Australia. So that only left me with $13,200 profit, but that's pretty good. It was better than here, right? Even though I had a bigger space, I now had 100 square meters. But, I was like boasting about my 100 square meters, but it still wouldn't have been as big as the 125 square meters over here. But at least this one had a window. But then again, you know what happened? It flooded. And that was, that was really bad. Anyway, that's got nothing. That's neither here nor there. So after the 2 years, of course, at this point in end of 2019, right, David had left. And I went, well, I don't need this whole 100 square meters to myself. It's just a waste. I'm pissing away $40,000 a year. The place bloody flooded anyway. It's hopeless. And I just don't need all the space. So I've done a video on this, how I chose the tight ass option to come back here in the 50 square meters. It was just me. So from then on, I only had my 50 square meters. But if I bought, I could have had 125 square meters. Wah, 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 wah. But once again, as you can see, in 2020, my money, my profit each year jumped back up to $28,000. And I've just done that for every year after that. Now, here's one of the interesting bits, of course, about owning property assets like this. Not always the case, but this is what happened in real life here. In 2015, it was worth $330,000. But by 2021, right now, I can tell you that office next door is worth $700,000. So I just sort of fudged the numbers in here about incrementing about $100,000 a year. Actually, fairly recently, they've been going up like a rocket, right? But yeah, this has more than doubled in value in like the 5 or 6 years. Now, the reason it did this is because back in 2015, the Metro went in, the Sydney Metro, and there's 2 train stations here in the business park, and that increased, asset values and stuff like that. But basically, commercial property all across Sydney actually had a boom period during this time. So yeah, that realistically, it would have now been worth $700,000, and because of the compounding interest I was paying off, I would now have a $700,000 asset with only $172,000 in debt. Right now, in 2021, if I had taken this path in life and bought that unit. Dull. And from here on end through to 2024, I've extended to, I'm just going to assume it's going to stay flat at $700,000, which I think is actually what will happen, because the commercial property market has, typically it'll have a long flat period, then it'll have a little mini boom, and then it'll have a long flat period. 5 or 10 years is not uncommon for commercial property. It doesn't always follow residential real estate. Commercial property is just a different beast. So what do we end up with at our 2 different paths in life here? Well, over here, by renting, I've ended up with $208,000. It's not negative. It's not red because it's negative. It's just different colors, because it was, in this particular case, the wrong choice. I should not have rented, even though after all this time, yeah, I saved some cash, which I could have put back into my business, and a lot of businesses need that, to put the cash back in. And if your business needs that, then obviously you might not be able to buy, because you need every cent to plow back into your business, to buy stock, pay wages, and improve your business and expand it, right? But in my particular case, I didn't really need that. So I effectively would have saved that in cash. But I would have, at the end of the 6 years, I have $208,000. Beauty. But if I'd bought over this column here, I would have $610,000. Not all in cash, of course. It's in equity, right? But so there's $700,000 in the equity in the property, but I only have $172,000 in debt. So I'm assuming that this actually goes to 2024, actually, for another 3 years here. So yeah, I'd end up with $610,000. It's actually slightly less than that right now in 2021. It'd be $700,000 minus $172,000. But anyway, in another 3 years' time, I would have been $400,000 better off if I had bought that unit, and I would have had 125 square meters lab space for all that time. So yeah, that was a dumb choice. And a lot of people say, oh, Dave, the lab's worth $700,000, but you can't sell it to get that cash. Yes, you can. It's called an equity loan, because you have the equity in the property. Banks will typically loan you like 80%. It might be, that's for houses, residential real estate, but for commercial property, it might be less than it. You might be able to get half or 60% or something like that for your commercial property. You can get that money back out, and that's what I've got in my house. I've actually got 2 loans in my house that allow me different lines of credit, equity loans, that I can just pull it out and do whatever I want with. Like I said, I bought this unit here with the money I'd saved in my house, and I could have bought the unit next door as well, and I foolishly didn't. So back in 2015, could I have actually predicted that commercial property would have gone up? Would have gone up from $330,000 to $700,000? Well, yes and no. Yes, in that I knew back in late 2014 they had just approved the Sydney Metro, and I thought that was going to improve prices here in the park. I knew it'd go up a little bit, but based on track record of commercial property, for the last, if I bought this same unit, right, $330,000 next door back in 2010, it would have only cost about $300,000 back then. So for the 5 years previous to this, there was almost no gain in commercial property. It might have gone up like 10% or something like that in 5 years. That's not uncommon for commercial property. So there was no track record of this business park having boomed like this. But I knew the Metro was going in, but it was all over Sydney. Commercial property just happened to boom for reasons. So yeah, now if I want to buy that unit next door, it's going to cost me $700,000. As I said, I'd have to sell this unit, and I'd have to buy in like another bigger unit or something like that. I can't splurge out like, 800, 900,000 for like 100 square meters or something like that. It's just nuts. And it doesn't even have a window. So anyway, I'll tell you the reason now why I didn't buy next door. Is that it didn't have a window. Like, yeah, it was convenient next door, and I probably could have knocked down the walls, but I probably wouldn't have actually, because that would have given me the flexibility. Owning two separate titled offices, I actually could have rented this smaller 50 square meter out and moved into the 75 square meter, and sort of like done that repeatedly over the years as my business requirements change in terms of like, staff and layout and, stock and all sorts of requirements. I could have like, jump between having the 125 square meters and, no, I'm downsizing this year because the market's sort of flat or something. I could have like rented this place out perhaps, and then just went to the 75 square meters next door. So yeah, I probably would have done that. But anyway, it didn't have a window, and I didn't want to, and it seemed like at the time, here's the other reason, is that I would have had over $500,000 invested in an asset in this one building here. And I thought, that just kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies a bit, that having all that money tied up in one asset in one building. And of course, with hindsight, it turned out not to be a problem. But at the time, it seemed like a lot of money, and got the heebie-jeebies that I didn't know the direction that the company was taking. I didn't know like David would come on full time and I'd need all that extra space and stuff like that. But yeah, so that were my reasons. Is that, yeah, I sort of like wanted to have a better place with like at least a window, maybe like a roller door shutter, like, they can do big stuff in, like a little sort of like garagey workshop area. And I've done videos on this. During all this time, I've actually been looking for other places. I'm always looking for places in case a bargain comes up or something like that. But yeah, I should have bought that place at $330,000. That was dumb. So that's how I pissed away $400,000. So eat your heart out, Lewis Rossman. 200,000. Amateur. So anyway, I hope you found that educational and interesting. As I said, this is not a thing about, buying is not always better than renting, but as I said, in general, my general life advice would be, if you can buy, and then pay it off like crazy, use it to become your own bank. So then you can withdraw money back out. So it's a good form of forced saving, and then you've got the cash available for rainy days like COVID, or rainy years like COVID. And those businesses that survived were those who had cash stored away so that they could survive all these periods of lockdown and upheaval. So there you go. Like, I don't really regret not doing it. I guess it's not the right word. It's just I had my decision. I had my reasons at the time. It's a decision I made, and well, that's just the end result. I went through the actual real numbers there. Yeah, I would have been $400,000 better off. So yeah, stuff like this happens. You make your decision and you just get on with life. It's not a problem. It's just turns out, yeah, would have been, with hindsight, yep, would have been better. So I hope you found that educational, and let us know in the comments down below if you've got a similar story. Yeah, shoulda, coulda bought, a place, or oh no, buying a place was the biggest mistake I ever made because I ran out of cash and my business folded, and etc. So it depends on your life circumstances. Any time during this period, say if I had bought here, you can come a gutser if you get sick, for example, or you have other life problems, something like that. I don't know, your partner leaves you and takes half your money or something, half your assets. I don't know. You get screwed over by your business partner and stuff happens and things like that. And well, you can, come a gutser. It's so over here, it feels safer to have that cash available. So if you were worried about that sort of stuff, renting might have been a better solution, especially if you can save the cash and things like that. But if you've got sort of like the cash to save each year instead of reinvesting in your business, then really it's probably in general a better choice to actually buy the property and then put that in there. And hopefully it will go up in value. Won't always happen, could even go down in value. You never know. But in this particular case, yeah, it went up a huge amount. And yeah, I would have been sitting pretty. But anyway, even if it stayed flat at $330,000, I'd still be $240,000 up. I'd still be $32,000 up over where I was from renting. So there you go. Hope you found that interesting and useful. If you did, give it a big thumbs up and I'll do more of this, life advice kind of stuff and life experience kind of stuff. Catch you next time.